was at the point where they couldn't give us dates.
We're
Oh,
live on
we're
Facebook.
live.
Okay, guys. Hey, welcome to another self love conversation. And I have an amazing woman who is a part of our Woman Rise. You're not alone. And her name is Danniele. Now, we're doing this interview because she has a story just like us, and she is from Australia. I can't wait for you to hear what she has to say. If you know Patricia, you know she got her book "Women Rise." You're not alone, and Danniele is one of the co-authors in here, and she has her title in a book called Voice. Danniele, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on here. I absolutely love your page, and it speaks in volumes as to what I believe in and what I put out there into the world. And I absolutely love it so much. And so thank you for what you're
Here,
doing in the world.
I enjoyed your story so much, where I just want to start. It's like the very beginning was like the best part for me, right? You said, I was born without a voice, not physically. It was ingrained from generations of being silenced. Oppressive conditioning was the norm in my family and in our society. Hiding behind secrets was a way of surviving. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Ah, yes. So for me, I guess to elaborate on that, so in my family, there was especially, well, it wasn't even just on my mum's side, both my parents' side, there was generations and generations of trauma. And uh, I come from a family of abuse, and there was physical abuse, psychological abuse, and sexual abuse.
Mm,
And it was something that nobody ever talked about. There was so much shame behind all of it. And I was so afraid to speak. I always knew that I had a voice because every now and then I would let something out, which
right,
got me into a lot of trouble.
right.
Um, and I suppressed it so for years. And to be honest, it was a good 29 years before I even knew who I was or discovered any kind of voice. Um, and it was so bizarre. Like now that I think about it, it's very bizarre that a person who has so much to say, and I was always a talker, don't get me wrong, I talked a lot, but
Mhm.
there was nothing behind what I said, I guess you could say. I never spoke up about anything that I believed in. I would never, ever, ever stand up for myself or anybody around me. And it's so sad that that's what I did.
But you know, Danielle, it's like we do what we see, right? We
That's
do what
right.
we see.
Learnt
So if
behavior.
we see that our moms are not giving us the best example to step up for ourselves, then we think that what mom do, we should do. But I
That's right.
like what you said. You said one day your mom just screamed out and you got and you was startled, like, what? And then she just screamed out, I can't take it no more, or whatever it is that she said. And then
Yeah,
she
she read it
started
in the
to
paper.
speak. Yeah. Tell how what happened? What was that?
So she was reading something in the paper, and it was about a woman who had been sexually abused, and a few women, sorry, and had spoken up and spoken out about what was going on. And it was like something had ignited in my mum to
Hmm.
say, no more. Like, this is it. And she, oh my gosh, it was like, so like for me, I can't take all the credit in, finding whilst I found my voice at 29, she lit that up. Finally, it was her that ignited something because she woke up. She was reading that article and she woke up, and my God, did she go guns blazing.
Hmm.
And she stood up for herself. And oh my, she lost family members from speaking out, and she is so brave. And
Yeah.
that's why obviously I spoke to her about putting her part of her story in my story,
Hmm.
because I wanted her to know how proud of her I am, because her entire family and still to this day are silenced.
Of course, because it's like you know, I just say, Danielle, like we as women, I spoke to a guy this morning and we was just talking about just the whole COVID thing and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that he said was, women, you're the one who drives us. You're the one who is the brain behind us. We need you to step up and show us the way. It is we listen to your understanding while we go rah, rah, rah out there in the world. And he said, I don't understand how women lost that. And what I was hearing is that we still need your guidance. You still are the thing, the glue that holds everything together.
Yeah.
But the shame, the fear is so strong.
Mm-hmm.
Things that are so intangible, that is so strong that you just stay silent, and you stay silent for years,
That's right.
and it eats you inside. And when you get to that moment, like your mom, where you know what, you're like, fuck it, I don't care anymore, right?
100%. She changed everything about herself.
Because you wake up one day, right, and you say, what the hell am I doing? The only
Yeah.
person that I am hurting is me.
Yeah. And it builds up and it becomes toxic. And that what people don't understand either is we get sick. We get
Yes,
sick when we're
literally.
holding all this stuff in. It
Absolutely.
becomes toxic.
Oh my God. And I just, when I read that part, I said that is the defining moment. That is the
Mm,
defining moment. So you saw that, you took that, and then you start running on with your life, right? And tell us
yeah.
about that. All the things that you did.
So, well, for after my mum did that, obviously she set a precedent for, there was a lot of turmoil in our family,
Mhm.
quite a lot. Um, and it was so funny because for me, when I had my moment, I literally literally woke up out of my bed, and I was like, I need to get out of here. It was like something, there was a light bulb that straight away said to me, I need to get out of here.
Mhm.
And I leant over, picked up my laptop, and I started applying for jobs all over the world.
Mm.
And even jobs that I would never even go for, but I just went, I put it out to the universe. I let the universe just take me.
Yeah.
And I know I was meant to go to New York because I had several. Georgia was the first place I was offered a job.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And the problem was they wanted me in 2 weeks, and I was in a management position, so I couldn't take that. I needed to find somebody. I needed to tell my boss I was leaving.
Right.
Um, so I had to turn that down, but they said to me, "We want you." Uh, so every time there was a position coming up, and it worked out perfectly because I had an interview, and it was between Long Island and New Jersey.
Mhm.
And I said, "Oh, Long Island, because that's in New York." And they tried to explain to me, well, the New Jersey one, which is right across from the Giant Stadium,
Right.
that's closer. And yeah, it was within 6 weeks. I'd had my visa interview. The next the next day they granted it. I
Wow.
got on my way home, and this was not me. I was a person where, like I said, I didn't speak up, I didn't say anything, but I also didn't step out of my comfort zone. So I could tell you what I was doing 6 weeks in advance.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I booked my ticket on the drive home. Like I stopped over at a travel agent, picked up my ticket, I called my parents, and my dad told me to stop being an idiot and hung up the phone.
Mhm.
I called one of my aunts who I'm very close to and a couple of the close people, and nobody really believed me.
Mhm.
But I had to let them know I'm leaving tomorrow. So
Mhm.
I literally was leaving the following day.
Wow.
And one of my best friends, who I've known since I was 18, so a very long time, said to me, you better get a backbone quick smart because they're going to eat you alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went, oh my goodness, what am I going to do?
Yeah, but you did it though.
I did it.
That is what is so inspiring about your story is how quickly things happen for you,
Mm-hmm.
which is scary, but then when you see it move so quickly, you know that's what you're supposed to be doing. When everything kind of
100%.
sort of work out, you know what I'm saying? You're just like, wow, all this time I'm holding on to this where I can be out exploring the world, finding myself, loving myself,
Yeah.
growing. And you did it literally just like that. Now you're up, you're going, and you like, oh shit, this is real. Wait a minute.
I was on this plane. I thought, what have I just done?
Right.
Because you have a lot of time to think.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I went, the worst part was the only flight they could get me was the one going to Dubai. So I literally went around the world,
Wow.
literally,
Wow.
because it was 30 hours airtime.
Mm.
I went from Sydney to, I think it was Singapore. We just did a stop there and then did Dubai and then Dubai straight to New York.
Wow.
It was crazy. It
What
was
happened when you
absolutely
got there?
crazy.
What happened when you got there?
So I had a driver. I didn't even know. All I knew was some man was picking me up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And my mind was blown away. You know, JFK is just crazy, the
Mm-hmm.
airport there. And, you know, I get to the hotel and I meet my boss and he tells me there is a party tonight, a farewell, go so you'll get to meet everybody. And I thought, oh my God, what am I thought, you know what? I'm going all in, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I went there and I met everybody and they were amazing. And for some reason I ended up at the head of the table and
Yes.
everybody was just listening and I'm just talking. It was like verbal diarrhea.
Because you were the new lady on the scene and you have such a wonderful accent and everybody wants to know how was the trip and you're gonna
Yeah.
love New York and the places where you could go. It's like you're in this whole new world, right?
Yeah, I
So
was.
so you're here, you're doing your thing, and then what happened?
So, well, I actually met, there was a girl, a woman, I should say, who I met the following day. Everybody told me I need to meet her. And the minute I met her, we clicked like that. And she said, I'm going to introduce you to some of my friends. And that was that night. And they are still friends today.
Wow.
Now, these women are very strong and empowering women. They
Mm-hmm.
definitely speak up for what they believe in. If you do something and they don't like it, you'll hear about it,
Of
but we
course.
keep moving on, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was kind of back then in Australia, that wasn't like that here, with not with the people, I guess because people weren't used to me ever speaking up. So I always found if I kind of was uncomfortable with things, people didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and oh, I just did crazy things. Like, you know, I started discovering things, and every time I'd hear them speak, and I'm just like, this is amazing. And I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted more, and I was absorbing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I even got my first tattoo there. It was like Memorial Day weekend.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I remember going, thinking that this is just, I fit so well there. That
Mm-hmm.
was the thing. So I felt like I was discovering, I was speaking up and I was meeting people. And I remember walking into Central Park and I thought I'd walked into another time zone. It was just the most miraculous thing I'd ever, oh, where the angel is. Like that was
Yeah.
just, it was truly I felt like I was here. It was
Yeah.
the most bizarre and miraculous feeling to just be like, I have
I,
found
I like
myself.
what you said. You said over the following 18 months after leaving the only home I ever knew, I began a journey inward. I discovered what I liked, what I didn't like, I
Mhm.
found myself and I found my voice. How could something so simple as moving to another country make me feel so empowered? Like I could be heard for the first time in my life. And the
Mhm.
answer is because you made yourself uncomfortable, you stepped out on faith, and you did
Mm.
what you felt. You did what you wanted to do for you.
That's right. And I always say now, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It is,
Absolutely.
oh, it is one of the most, if it's making you uncomfortable and it's a good thing, obviously, go for it because it's one of the best things that you could do. Oh my gosh. Even one of my very close friends here, she would never do anything on her own. She says to me, I was in New York visiting my friends, and because we'd said let's go to Hawaii. And I said, why don't you fly and meet me there? And she's
Look
like,
at us
no.
flying around.
She
Yes.
couldn't believe it. She's just like, no, no. And this was like on one of my vacations.
Yeah.
And she goes, I can't do it. I said, yes, you can. And then my flight was delayed. She went and had dinner by herself. Now, that's something she had never done before. And
Yeah.
now she's traveling on her own. She went to New Zealand by herself. And these are things that I so encourage anybody, like, but especially we as women have so much to offer the world,
Everything.
so much. And I think it's when we get uncomfortable, oh my goodness, magic happens. And I really believe
Absolutely.
that magic happens.
And then you said, I met a beautiful man who encouraged me to speak.
Oh, mm,
Lord, you know I'm nosy, so I want to know what happened. You said he encouraged me to talk about my feelings, my dreams, and what I wanted to do in any given moment to talk about everything. I remember getting ready to go out for dinner and hearing his words, "Wow, you're beautiful." I had never experienced anything like this before. My smile shone from the inside out, my heart racing 100 miles per hour. I didn't doubt him, but most importantly, I didn't doubt myself, feeling confident enough to simply say, "Thank you."
thank you.
Wow. Now, that is a big thing where it is hard for us sometimes to take compliments,
Mm,
especially when it comes from a male, because we feel like, oh, they want something for those compliments. You know what I'm saying?
mm, mm-hmm.
And it's also a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. But what was that moment really like for you? Because I felt it in the words, but that inside out part, what was that?
Oh, it was. I remember stopping when he'd said that. And it was bizarre because I literally he was waiting for me, of course, sitting on the sofa. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd walked out of my room and he stood up, and even just the look on his face, and I knew there was so much love and he was so genuine and everything he'd said, and his energy, I felt every single bit of it. My entire body, I felt every single part in my body, which is why, like, he even kind of grinned when he saw the look on my face because
Mm-hmm.
it was a look of shock, but at the same time, as I was shocked, I felt it. I felt every part. And I, for the first time, was like, I'm actually worthy.
Yes.
I'm actually loved and I'm beautiful. And the funny thing, I met him when I was probably the biggest I've ever been in my life. And I started, it's bizarre how the weight just dropped off me while I was living over there. I wasn't carrying anything. So the weight just fell. And I remember him saying to me one day, you're too skinny.
Oh no.
He goes, you are beautiful. Don't do it for me. Don't do it for anybody. He goes, if you're doing it for you, do it for you. And I was just like, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm not doing anything different to what I would normally do.
Right.
But my weight was falling off me. But
You were
I
happy.
I was so happy. But that he taught me that doesn't have to be ulterior motives behind a kind gesture.
Exactly.
He taught me that it is okay
Mm-hmm.
to receive and accept love.
Why do you think that's so hard for us to do as women? Why is it so hard for us? We give out so much love.
Mm-hmm.
We do the sacrificing, but when it's time to accept, and even me included, it is so hard. Why do you think that?
I truly believe a big part of it is society. Now, when I say that, though, we all make up society, every single one of us. And there is so much, women put each other down. And now, this is why I love being a part of, even Women Rise right now. This is the time where we are starting to change.
Right.
And I really feel like we were taught to look a certain way, behave a certain way, and I guess, the Stepford wives, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody else does something amazing, when they look amazing, we don't tell them how amazing they are. We
Right.
weren't telling them how beautiful they were.
Right.
And it's all learnt behavior, because generations and generations and generations of women weren't told to accept their beauty. They
Correct.
weren't told to accept um, their voice. And I really believe that's what it has come to. And now there's been like an awakening. And
Mm-hmm.
whilst we are still being uncomfortable with it,
Mm-hmm.
this is where I say get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And whilst it's difficult to say thank you,
Yeah.
and I'm the first person to say, I still struggle to this day, but I still say thank you, and you receive it. It's like the moment you say thank you to somebody, I really feel that's when you start receiving it, even if it is uncomfortable, and
Yeah.
you start seeing. But it's all generational. I really believe in generational trauma.
Mm.
And we as women were always battered.
I believe that because
Yeah.
when people say, "Oh, Gloria, you're so pretty," or "You have a pretty smile," and I'm just like, "Oh, you just like the way my hair looks today," or "You just like this," instead of saying thank you, I used to come
Mm,
up with all these excuses, right? Like, "Oh, it's my color of my shirt," or whatever it is that I have on, right? And then I just said to myself, I said, "Why don't you just accept
yeah.
the comment and say thank you? Why are you not
Mm-hmm.
saying thank you?" And for me, I guess it was just the whole thing of, you know, maybe I didn't like what I saw and it was coming
Yeah.
out. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where, I didn't accept who I was. So I couldn't even believe what you were saying.
That's
You
right.
you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like that, but it's like you said, generations where it's not, I don't feel that way. Only we have millions of women who feel that way.
That's
And
right.
it's like, but why? Because we were never taught to say thank you. I know that I'm beautiful. It's more like, oh, you're a nurturer. You go out there, you love, you sacrifice, you have loyalty. Don't worry about how you look. You know what you look at? Look at those women on TV.
Mm-hmm.
They're beautiful. You
That's
get it?
right. Yeah.
Aspire to be like them.
Mm-hmm.
Aspire to be small like them, to look like them. And it's like, no, this is who God made. This is me.
That's right.
And I know in that moment when he looked at you and it was like, wow, he's just like, yep,
I
yep,
deliberately wanted the readers to feel what I felt at that
yeah,
moment,
I felt it.
because yeah, see, and it gets you thinking, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
that was the whole thing, because I really wanted women to feel that and understand what that feels like, and
Oh,
to accept it and receive it,
I was
because it's the
happy for
most
you.
amazing feeling ever. The
I was
most
happy
amazing
for you.
feeling.
I was like, wow, I know he was happy at the end of that night, boy, because that was something good. For
Would you believe
real.
his father set us up?
What?
Yep, I bought tickets and he's for a cruise, and his father was the person organizing it. And the second time he came back because we got more tickets, he said, "I want to introduce you to one of my sons."
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that an honor? Okay.
Yes.
And then you say you fell back into the old patterns. Now, what happened there? So we got all this love and everything going on.
Yep.
What happened?
Well, that was more when I came back home.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So you
And I
like
got all these compliments, and people are like,
got it.
but then at the same time, people were getting quite annoyed with me because they had never, I had found my voice. I came
Mm-hmm.
back home with my voice, and people were kind of like, hang on a second. She is mute. She doesn't say what she thinks. And it was, people weren't liking it
Mm-hmm.
because not all the people I surrounded myself with, of course, because some of my friends, I've known since I was 16, they're the ones I still have
Mm-hmm.
in my life. But other people were getting very annoyed. I lost relationships out of it.
Of course.
And, and then I started questioning myself.
Mm.
And, I in my head, I was going back. I was not staying here. I'd found home, and I still to this day, and my family have also accepted that over there feels more like home than here does for me.
Right.
Um, and I believe it's probably got a lot to do with me being rebirthed, I guess, being over there and discovering who I am.
Right.
Um, and a few people were trying to introduce me to people like men so that I could stay here and not go back. And I met this guy, and he was very abusive.
Mm-hmm.
He'd put me down constantly.
Mm.
So slowly, 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 I was being battered back down. And of course, I allowed it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to say in this is that whilst I did fall back down, this is something that does happen, and it happens with anything in life,
Thank
even when it's any kind of recovery.
you.
I say to people, any kind of time that you have taken to recover is time you have healed.
Yes.
Whilst you may fall back down and fall off the wagon, or whatever term you would like to use, it happens, and that is all part of our healing process.
Exactly.
And I think because I just went out into the world where I had nobody from my regular surroundings, I was able to find my wings, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came back here, I had to, it's like, when you watch a reality show and they're locked up like Big Brother,
Yeah.
and they're one kind of person, or a love show, like, and they're away in this experiment and they come out into the real world. It's the same kind of thing. I came back here, and I say this so bizarrely because people think it's the craziest thing I could say, but the best thing he ever did, because we talked about marriage and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
the best thing he ever did was hit me.
Wow.
Whilst that's crazy, that fist hitting my face was my
Yeah.
biggest wake up call I've ever had in my life. And did I use my words? Did I say, do not ever touch me? I, of course, never went back to him. And
Of course.
that Danniele with a voice came back out again.
Mm-hmm.
I wish it never had come to that. And I still to this day, and that's why I say, because I was caught up in that world of keeping everybody else happy again. And
Right.
we like I said, talked about marriage, and I was going to do that with him.
Mm-hmm. And when you started to go back into your old patterns, was it because you didn't want to ruffle the feathers of anyone around you, your family? You wanted to come back home and be with them and love them and have them love you. So now you're coming back and you're this totally different person that they don't accept, but
Mm-hmm.
they accept the quiet, mute person. So you're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, in order to get this love, I need to do this. In
I need
order
to
to get
slow
this,
back
I
down
have to
again.
do that. Right?
Yeah, yep. I need to start being more quiet. I need to stop
Right.
using my voice.
Right.
And I guess I was looking for that acceptance again because I felt like I didn't belong here as well.
Absolutely.
So I think, and that's when things started to look like I wasn't able to just get back on the plane and go back over there.
Mm.
And I'm very independent as well. So for me, like, you know, one of my friends said, I know I shouldn't say this, but he'd said, I'll marry you. And I said, but to me, I was like, no, I need to do this on my own 2 feet and I will do it in whatever way I need to, but in the right way.
Right.
And I truly believed that the only way to find myself was to go back there or to keep myself, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And when it started to look a little bit grimmer that I wasn't getting back on that plane to go there, um, yeah, it was like I started just finding myself back in that hole again.
Right.
Yeah.
So where are you now?
Oh, now,
Mhm.
now I am pushing people out of their comfort zone.
Yes.
I am showing them that no matter what happens in our lives, it is okay to speak up. It is, it was bizarre, like telling this story because I had never spoken about my sexual abuse ever to anybody. And it was a year and a half ago that I did, 2 years ago, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And the first people I spoke about it to were my closest friends. Now, that, when I spoke out about it, oh my goodness, it was like I was free.
Mm.
So I understand the whole shame and the whole keeping silence whilst I was still speaking out and talking, telling people to use their voice, telling women to speak up for who they are
Mm.
and not to carry any shame behind anything. It is something now that I really encourage because I know the weight that is lifted off my shoulders
Yes.
once I have spoken about it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where I am in, and I work with teenagers, a lot of young females. Um, oh my goodness, they think I'm crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
they absolutely think I'm crazy, but when they do the work, like especially, I really support and encourage women more than anything in the world to look at themselves naked in the mirror.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that, I really believe, that is one of the things that really starts you to speak because nothing else will matter unless you see yourself the way that you should see yourself. And
Absolutely.
I do that. I do that regularly now because sometimes I need to remind myself, like because I've gained some weight again and I'm releasing it, but I was carrying a lot of shame behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And I look in the mirror and I look and I say, "You are beautiful." And I literally go through every part of my body and say how beautiful she is because we are such miraculous beings as women. And boy, we need to honor that. And I think the minute that we start honoring that as ourselves, we can make so many changes in other women around us. And I guess for me now is changing one woman at a time and allowing them to see the beauty that everybody else sees in them.
Ladies, I'm telling you, when you read her story, it is like a fairy tale in women's rise. I just could not believe how much courage you had, and you actually stepped out on faith. You did something. It came to pass. It's like you went through this whole hero's journey where you were
Mm,
at home, then you stepped out there, and then you found somebody to guide you. Then it was this new discovery of yourself, and then you have these pitfalls, but then you come home, right? Like a
mm-hmm.
hero, right? Because the hero always come back home
That's right.
and teach what they learn, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And here you are. I mean, you went through the whole journey. And like I tell the ladies, the journey never ends because
No, it
the more
doesn't.
you live, the more stuff you encounter and you find out about yourself. And that's what life is. right?
100%. And that's what I try and tell people. Like, it's okay, because even for me, like, we lost my dad, it was a year ago, 15th of March.
Mhm.
And some people say to me, I can't believe you hold it together. I can't believe you do this. And then when I say to people, I just need some me time today, I'm crying, I'm allowing myself. And they're like, oh, don't be so hard on yourself. And I try and explain, I'm not.
Nope.
It's allowing ourselves to feel safe in those moments
Right.
are the critical and the most important things, is to
Absolutely.
love, honor, and respect ourselves for what we're feeling,
Mhm.
because that's all part of healing. That's all part of loving ourselves and feeling safe within ourselves. We're not going to break. It's okay to sit there and wail and cry and do and scream and whatever it is that we need to do at that time. And you know what? That's okay, and that is our right to do that. And it
Absolutely.
is so incredibly healing.
Oh my God, I love you. I really do. I enjoyed your story. How can we find you? We know where to find the book, but how can we find you on social media to follow you? What do you have? Just let us know.
Okay, so my website is being rebuilt, so I don't have a website at the moment, but on social media, I am Danniele Tammjarv International. I can drop the links in if you like,
Please,
because
please.
my surname and my first name is a little bit different.
Okay, yes, please.
I also have a closed group called Unapologetically You.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So, and I also have my email address. So I can put those in there. I
Yeah,
believe my email address is also in the back of the book.
it is.
We have, yes.
Yeah, it is.
Uh, and I have had a few women who have read the book reach out already in regards to doing some one-on-one work, which has been amazing.
Yeah.
And I do travel. So because, well, at the moment I can't,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's been an amazing adventure um, to be a part of in helping other women. I
Doesn't it
was in
feel
this,
good? Doesn't it
yeah,
feel good?
it was
Because,
incredible.
yeah,
It's incredible. It's the most amazing gift, like to be a person that somebody is trusting in you with. I really feel like it is the biggest gift. As a perfect example, I had a woman who I've worked one on one with previously, and
mhm,
she also attended a workshop. She called me, and knowing that I go to the US every year,
mhm.
asked me last year when I was coming next. And I told her probably September, October. And she said, great. I've got a house in the Hamptons. Can you run a workshop there? I've got 10 other women. And I was like, whoa, what? And she goes, I'm recently divorced and they're all divorced. And
Yep.
she goes, all I hear them is they say to me, geez, you're so wise. And she goes, I start talking about you. And I run this workshop and these women. And I was like, I was a little bit intimidated because these women were very, I guess you could tell they ran the household,
Right.
very wealthy women,
Hmm.
but they ran the household. So things had shifted for them.
Hmm.
But I walked in and they were so timid and so fragile. And boy, did they walk out like, oh,
Right. Because
they were firecrackers.
we don't want to hold our face, that mask we wear. We want to be able to take that mask off at some point and just sit and say, you know what? I really can't do it all. You know what? I am
Yep.
tired of being strong. you know, I
And
really
I
just want
find
to get out there.
strength in the weakness. I really
Yes.
do. In our being vulnerable, I really feel like there is so much strength in our allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. Like I know when I wrote
Yeah.
that onto, you know, in that book, all I thought was I was very cautious with some of things that I wrote in there,
Yeah.
just for the pure fact that my father and I had the most beautiful relationship while I wrote that book.
Hmm.
Things, it had taken a long time, and about the past 7, 8 years, my dad and I were so close,
Hmm.
so close. But the thing is that I told him about what I was writing, and he was so proud of me.
Wow.
And that fear, And it was funny because he'd said something and I thought, you've read it. So he must have, because I sent it to my mum because I wanted her to check it.
Yeah.
So I think it's all about, whilst I feel like most of the fear we have, and whilst, yes, some people are going to batter us down, I can guarantee you that because it's happened to me personally and so many people, other women I know.
Oh, yeah.
But in saying that, so many other people that may surprise you will support and encourage you.
Yeah. I tell the women all the time, you know, my family gets on the Facebook and they argue back and forth with me. No, that did not happen. And you shouldn't be putting your family business out there. And I just tell them, it is my experience of
Your
what I
story.
experienced. It is my story. Now, you have yours and I have mine. So
nobody can tell you how you experience things.
absolutely. And I'm like, I'm real grown. If you have
Yeah.
something to say, you can call me, you know. But other than that, this is my story and this is what I'm sticking to.
And you empower yourself, continue to do that because,
Absolutely.
I hold your hand in that. It is, I think, so much, you know, women need to reach out to other women and say, you know what, I'm having problems with this. This is what's going on.
Absolutely.
Just to reach out to another sister. And that's what we are. We are all sisters in arms. And wow, what a powerful world this will be when all of us continue to rise with each other.
Danniele, thank you so much for being here. I
Thank you so
definitely
much for
want to do
having me.
something with you in the future very soon because I think just your story and what you have to share and offer is something that we definitely need. And I just appreciate you doing this interview with us, okay?
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And you enjoy your morning, okay?
I will. Enjoy your evening.
All right. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.